Lastly, I just want to talk about some movie news that has come out recently. Specifically with Disney, Scream, and kind of the movie industry in general. We'll get to the Scream stuff later, but I just wanted to rattle this off quickly. Bob Iger recently came out and said that Disney is going to focus on quality over quantity from now on. My response is, isn't that what you should have been doing in the first place? I'm happy you're acknowledging that that's what Disney has become. Um, I understand you got to say it for the fans. I understand it, but I think that's everything that's wrong with what Disney has done. And yeah, it's nice to, I guess, hear them say it. But my answer is like, that should have been obvious from the beginning. The plan shouldn't have been, let's churn up this half baked stuff just to make a profit. And now it's actually just throwing it back in their face because we're not idiots. Us fans, we're not idiots. We love Disney. We love the nostalgia feelings it brings us. You know, it will always hold the best place in my heart. And it's like not a coincidence that specifically my generation and a little bit older, basically from my generation till they're 40 years old, we've witnessed like the peak of Disney with their 90s films, with their late 80s films, the Renaissance, their Pixar films, their all of it. And Disney's been involved in our lives, you know, even like when we're watching Disney Channel, like growing up, like the iconic sitcom shows that they had and the cartoon shows that they had, like we're dealing with we grew up with peak Disney, so now it's not that anymore. So now people are angry. And not necessarily because it's not possible to get those things anymore. It's mainly because the company is churning a profit. And I've discussed this in my Wire blockbusters failing. You know, they're trying to appease people that don't exist, people who kind of get offended all the time, as well as kind of talk down about their own stuff that was iconic and people loved, like the Snow White movies or like all these live action remakes. They're changing things in the past that just don't need to be changed. Just make new things. And it's you sense a phoniness to it. So I'm happy Bob Iger said that. But it led me to what else I wanted to discuss with Christopher Nolan and specifically Edgar Wright's quotes. Both have basically said it's important to have a balance. And these big franchises, right? Martin Scorsese has kind of been the biggest critic of these Marvel films and all that, right? And Ridley Scott as well. And instead of the grumpy old man like, "Oh, they're ruining the industry" and blah blah blah, which part of that is somewhat accurate, but a lot of it is emotional and kind of sounds like get off my lawn type stuff. Christopher Nolan and Edgar Wright are not 80-year-old men. They're not. So they and have directed blockbusters themselves have been involved in blockbusters. And what they say is I think is the biggest consensus and biggest opinion of most people. Big block big blockbusters and franchises are necessary and should be made and blah blah blah. Independent films are also necessary and should be made consistently, along with mid-budget movies and all this stuff. But it's important to find a balance. It's important to go and look at all these films during a year and be like, okay, we have this blockbuster. Okay, now we won't do it for a while, right? Build anticipation. That's basically what Edgar Wright said. Christopher Nolan said striking that balance. It's important, and specifically with Star Wars and Marvel, Disney needs to stop. Not necessarily stop making those movies for a while, but considering that we don't know what's going on with the MCU, they're hiring writers, firing writers, changing directions of the stories. We get it. Like investors want return on their money and they need these movies they feel a reason to make these films constantly. Well, the problem is the anticipation for them and the excitement for them and the talk about them has severely diminished. And not only that, it's diminished in like 3 years. We were at a time in 2020 where we would do anything to just see a big movie again. We were so excited, and they just kept churning out these half-baked ideas. And it's time to take a pause. Maybe don't make another Star Wars movie for a while. No, they're not going to do this. I'm just talking about it like this is probably the thing that would make people go to those Star Wars films, go to the Marvel films, is taking a pause, having a plan, not be so reactive to certain situations in pop culture. Build that anticipation again. Make people miss, man, I miss a good Marvel movie. I want to see a good Marvel movie again. Not 50 crap Marvel movies with one being all right, like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. A good movie, right? I think that's important. So when I see quotes like what Bob Iger said, and I see what quotes like what Ridley Scott said, and Martin Scorsese, and Christopher Nolan, and Edgar Wright, I just come to the conclusion that we understand what's happening in Disney is an issue right now. And now some people want to ignore that, and that's okay. There are people who love the comic book movies still today. I get it. I understand it. I don't understand it personally. I think the reason why you love comic book movies is because of how great Iron Man, The Dark Knight, like the great MCU films like Avengers and Avengers Endgame, and like those great movies. And you're looking at Martin Scorsese and Ridley Scott and saying they don't know anything, basically. And the reality is they know exactly what they're talking about. They're grumpy old men, let's face it. Like, they definitely have an issue with the fact that the industry is changing and that the movies aren't like they used to be, and blah, blah, blah. That's all fair and value. And they're saying it relatively harshly for some people. But if you really want to kind of understand the real scope and opinion of most people, I think Edgar Wright and his comments kind of capture that, because it describes why the movies don't feel exciting anymore. It describes why people aren't going to see movies like the Marvels, right? Or having trouble keeping up with the television shows, or everyone being so angry with Star Wars and all that stuff. And you saw Taika, he recently came out and said he just did Thor Ragnarok for money, which some people are really not happy with him about that. And, and he said that his Star Wars movie is going to piss people off. Then maybe don't make the Star Wars movie. Like, you just maybe wait. Why not wait? Why can't we wait for this stuff? Why does it have to be this money churning stuff? It's just, it's unfortunate that it's become that. But I just looked at Edgar Wright's and Christopher Nolan's, and I was just like, yeah, those are the opinions I agree on. Let's move on to Scream. Scream 7 is dealing with a lot of drama. Now, Scream 6 had a tiny bit when Neve Campbell said she wasn't returning for contract issues. I think what they basically want to say is like, we're not going to have you in the movie that much, so we don't want to pay you the amount of money that you want. And I think it actually kind of worked better for Scream 6 not having her in it, because it's only so many times where she can run away from crazy stuff happening like that. But the two Scream leads will not be returning for Scream 7. And it has me a little concerned. Number one, Jenna Ortega is an actress I respect a lot. And I think she's she's really great in these films. She was kind of a no-name when Scream 5 came out, but she was really good. And then obviously she did Wednesday, so that really pulled things together for her. But what I'm concerned about is I think Scream 6 was a good movie. I think it was unique, and they had it in New York City. I don't really know where Scream 7 is going to go. I don't know what the setting is. I don't know, but I still think there were still some things to tell with the new characters. Melissa Barrera will not be back. This is very complicated to talk about, and I'm not going to go too deep into the political things. But clearly, I think what matters. I think what it's shown here is Scream 7 is in a lot of trouble. And I don't know what they're gonna do, how they're gonna make it different, how it's gonna relate to the past Scream movies because of these casting issues. We'll see what happens. They have new directors. Or they have a new director coming in. I believe he's the same director of Happy Death Day and Freaky, the movie with Vince Vaughn. And those movies are fine, you know. They're more funny than anything. So we'll see what happens with Scream 7, but it just seems like they were kind of trying to build something with these new characters, and now they're not. And it's really weird to make a good like third movie with these new characters if they're not in it. And I don't know if they're bringing back some stuff. Maybe they'll pull some crazy stuff. Maybe Stu will come back. I have no idea what's going to happen with that. But it was just disappointing to see, like, as a Scream fan, like, I've been on the record. I said this is the best horror franchise. Scream 7 may be the first Scream movie that could be a complete and utter disaster. I know some people don't think Scream 3 is very good. Some people think it's good. Some people don't think Scream sequels are that great at all. I think they are from critically, and they've been consistent. But Scream 3 has a lot of problems. But I still find it entertaining and tight and has really cool moments in it. But Scream 7 has the potential with a new director, new actors. It has the potential to be a disaster. And I hope that's not the case. But we'll see. Lastly, like I said, I had a really great Thanksgiving. I ate a lot of food. I probably ate way too much food. I mean, that's Thanksgiving in general, but I don't think I've ever eaten as much food as in my life. My younger brother is an amazing cook, and he just kept cooking and cooking and cooking and cooking, and I just had to eat it. I'm sorry. But what I always enjoy is Black Friday as well, specifically as a movie fan, because it allows me to kind of look at like Black Friday deals and like movies and stuff like that. And I like to physically go to the store. I kind of like that. I have a Blu-ray collection. I love physical media. I've talked about it before. It depresses me that Best Buy is going to stop with physical media. So I thought this is the last Black Friday where Best Buy is going to have physical media. I'm going to go. And I went and I just picked up a few films that I enjoyed. I thought I would share them quickly with you. I just picked up 3 movies. Number 1, you may lose a little respect for me, but I freaking love this movie. The Holiday, with Jude Law and Cameron Diaz and Kate Winslet and Jack Black. Quick thoughts specifically. I really love this movie. I'm a huge fan of Jude Law. Jude Law is awesome. Cameron Diaz is actually like really good in this. She's given performances in movies where you're kind of like, all right, whatever, it's Cameron Diaz. But I actually think she's really good here. This is probably, I haven't seen all of Nancy Meyers' films, but this is probably the one I like the most. It's just fun. It made me want to go it makes me want to go to England around Christmas time, or to London. Like, it just makes me want to go there. And as far as the Kate Winslet, Jack Black storyline, that's probably by far the weakest part of it. What makes this movie is the Jude Law, Cameron Diaz chemistry. But I love it. If you haven't seen it, I actually recommend it, especially if, with your date or anything. It's really fun. Great music too by Hans Zimmer. Next, got this on 4K. I Know What You Did Last Summer. I have actually not seen this. So, it's always a movie I've wanted to watch. It's obviously written by the same guy who wrote Scream. So this came shortly after that. Freddie Prinze Jr. and Sarah Michelle Gellar are in it, and that's a Scooby-Doo thing. I've seen clips, I've seen parts of the film, but I have not seen all of it. And Jennifer Love Hewitt's in it, and I just so really wanted to watch it. It's not on streaming. I mean, it is on streaming, but I don't feel like getting a Peacock subscription. Like, $10, it's in my hand. How much is a Peacock subscription? I think it's like $5, $6. All right, cool. But $10, I have it for the rest of my life. Go physical media. Next, last one. One of my favorite films of this year. Spoilers for possibly, not just spoilers, just one of my favorite movies of the year. This will probably be on my list, top 10 list at the end of the season, end of the movie season, end of the year. Talking about films, my top 10 favorite movies of the year. I will definitely do that. And one of them, most certainly, will be John Wick Chapter 4. John Wick Chapter 4. I was late to the John Wick party. I own all of them. I watched all of them before John Wick 4, actually. I don't think I'd seen them up until then. So my favorite is between 1 and 4. I was blown away by 4. It's 3 hours. It's really long. I hope it's the ending. I hope it's the conclusion. But I didn't think, like, specifically with 2 and 3, I thought they were pretty similar. 3 probably being the worst for me, but like 2 and 3 are similar in the way that it's like they're really fun action movies, but they're just not as good as 1, and nothing's gonna be good as 1. This one is just as good as 1. It's really good. And it tells a different story. It has a really good villain in Bill Skarsgård. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. It's Keanu Reeves, man. Keanu Reeves. Speaking of original franchises in Hollywood, John Wick wasn't too long ago. It's possible. Make a new franchise, make a new exciting thing. This movie made a ton of money. So much money that I think this would have been the ending if it didn't make as much money as it did. Now you're hearing about spin-offs and John Wick 5 and blah, blah, blah. Really great movie. But that was really it for the Black Friday stuff. I thought about doing Cyber Monday stuff, but that's just not as fun. Maybe y'all get by some more Blu-rays before Christmas and all that, and I could share with you guys on my channel and stuff like that. But yeah, that was great, man. I just really love doing that.